Hello and welcome to this tutorial from learnwithvisionarydesign.com. In this tutorial, you are going to learn how to create the previewed 3D animation. This tutorial will be divided into 3 sections. In the first part of the tutorial, you are going to create the 2D design of this animation, which you can see here. You will learn how to create shape layers, how to deal with aligning them correctly, and for symmetry reasons, we're going to use the repeater to create these repeated shapes that you see here. In the second section, you are going to turn this 2D shape into this awesome 3D design. I'm going to introduce you to the ray traced 3D renderer of After Effects, and we are going to extrude each layer and position it in the Z-axis correctly. You are also going to learn about cameras and light. In the third section, you're going to animate this 3D design. To animate it, we are going to dive deep into the graph editor in order to get the best movements possible. We're also going to learn to animate the movement of the camera and the lighting. Part 2 of this tutorial will be published next week, and part 3 will be published the week after that. So don't forget to subscribe to be notified as soon as the next part is out. So let's start the first part of this tutorial. The first thing that we need to do is design our 2D model. We'll start by creating a new composition. Let's name it 2D and stick with our default settings. 10-second duration would be enough. I'm going to start with creating a new solid layer by pressing Ctrl Y or Command Y if you have a Mac. My color would be this green. Let's name the layer BG. I actually use this color scheme as a reference for my colors. You can choose whichever colors you like. Our first shape will be a square, so we can go to the rectangle tool right from the toolbar, or press Q on our keyboard to bring it up. Press Shift while creating your square to make it while creating your rectangle to make it a perfect square. Let's align it in the center and set the anchor point to the middle. For this, I use my Move Anchor Point script, which you can find easily. But you can simply do this by using the Pan Behind tool, this one, or press Y to bring it up. Select the outside layer and move this anchor point closely to the middle. This will work the same. Let's make it a little bit smaller and change the color, the fill color, to the gray one. We'll name the layer Gray Square. Now we will create the side rectangles. Again, by using the rectangle tool, we'll create a rectangle on the right side, align it in the center, and what I want to do now is duplicate this rectangle and make it on the left side. So I will select the rectangle one inside layer, press V on our keyboard to bring up the selection tool, press Alt and press and hold while also pressing Shift, and drag it to the left to create your second rectangle. Now we can align it in the center, so the middle gray square is exactly in the middle. We'll change the fill color to yellow. Again, you can choose whichever color you want. Now what I want to do is create side rectangles inside these that we just created. So I will select these Let's name the layer yellow side rectangles and press Ctrl D to duplicate them. We'll make them purple, so we'll name it purple side rectangles. Naming the layers is quite helpful when you're dealing with multiple layers, so you don't need to press on each layer to show it. You will just understand from its name. Let's first change the color. I'm going to choose this purple color, and what I'm going to do is go to the inside layers, open their properties and change the size. So let's uncheck the constraint proportion option, and this will do. So 55 by 260. Sorry, 260. The second one will be the same size, so 55. Uncheck the constraint proportion and 260. What we're going to do now is create a circle right in the center also by pressing Shift. Move the anchor point to the center and align the circle right in the middle. It will be smaller, somewhat smaller than the gray square. Actually, let's make these rectangles green. By the way, I renamed the layer by pressing Enter. You can immediately change its name. Let's change the color to green. Let's name this purple circle, and what we're going to do now is create our outline squares that we saw in the preview video. To do that, we're going to use the repeater property. So the best way to do this would be to start from a blank layer, because when you start from an existing layer you will have problems with the angles in which the repeater will be applied. Make sure no layer is selected. Click somewhere in this area, right click, new and shape layer. Open this shape layer, it will be an empty layer. In the add next to the arrow next to the add word, click and choose a rectangle. Now this rectangle will have no fill and no stroke. It will be just an outline. So we'll also need to click on the add arrow and add a stroke. Make the size a little bit smaller, and the stroke width will increase to 10. We're going to make the outline yellow, the stroke color yellow, so we'll choose from the eyedropper tool, and let's enlarge it a little bit more. Now to add the repeater, we're going to the add arrow and add a repeater. What we need to do now is create 8 squares that will be distributed evenly on the circle. So we'll make the copies number 8, and we'll go to the transform repeater one. We'll set this position to 0 on both sides, so all layers, all squares will be on top of each other, and we'll go to the rotation and make the angle in which each square will follow the one before it 360 divided by 8, which is 45 degrees. Now the rectangles are still on top of each other, so to move them we are going to, and this is really important because we are going to change the position. But if you go to the outside layer and press P to bring up the position property and change its position, all rectangles will move together. What you want to do is go to Contents, Rectangle Path 1, which we created by adding a new shape, and go to this position. Now moving it will send the squares away from each other, and now your shape is better. So let's name these yellow squares, and we have our repeated layer. We want now to make gray squares inside these yellow squares. So we press on the layer and press Ctrl D or Command D to duplicate it, and let's name it gray squares. We'll go to this stroke color, use the eyedropper tool to select this gray color, go to Contents, Rectangle Path 1. Again, don't use the scale property from the transform of the outside layer. You need to go to Contents, Rectangle Path 1, and change this size. So we're going to make it smaller so it appears inside the yellow outline squares. Now we are going to create, by the way, if you want to close all layers, you can just press somewhere outside, not here, outside the layers, and press U on your keyboard so all layers will be closed. Now we are going to create another circle. You can duplicate the purple circle already created, or you can create one from scratch. So we'll press Shift and make a circle. Let's align it right in the center. Now we are going to create small green circles that will be on top of these squares. So what we're going to do again is duplicate the gray squares layer. Let's move it to the top, name it green small circles, for example. Let's see, yes, that's right. We're going to delete the stroke because this time we need a fill. So we'll press on Add and add a fill. Our fill color will be also the same green color. To make these into a circle, we'll go to Contents and Rectangle Path 1. Go to the roundness property and increase it until the shape is turned into a circle. Let's adjust the size. And now we're okay. What we need to do now is create lines that connect these circles with the middle green circle. So again, we're going to duplicate the gray squares, send them to the top by pressing Ctrl Shift and the closing square parenthesis. Let's name them green connecting lines, for example. Also delete the stroke because now we also need to make a fill color, and again change it to the green color. We're going to adjust the size, uncheck the constraint proportion property, make it narrower and longer. Now to actually make these lines go to the inside, we are going to actually use the scale property of the outside layer. Let's make it this way, and now we have it. Our shape is almost over. We're going to create another circle. This will be a yellow outline circle. It will have only a stroke with no fill. The stroke color, the stroke width will be a little bit wide, and its color will be yellow. The scale of this circle will be like this, for example. Again, this is pretty basic stuff, but I wanted to give you a general information, a general introduction to creating shapes and being comfortable with creating multiple shapes on top of each other to create our 2D model. Let's increase the stroke a little bit. Just a little bit. Yep, this will do. Now we are going to again duplicate this, send it to the top, and name it purple circle. This will be our, let's change the scale and change the color to purple. So there you have it. This is our shape that we will turn later into a 3D shape. This was the end of part 1 of this 3-part tutorial on creating this 3D animation. I hope you learned something from this section. In the next sections, we're going to learn how to make these shapes into 3D extruded shapes using the ray traced 3D renderer of After Effects. You're going to need a newer version from After Effects, probably CS6 and above. So don't forget to subscribe to be notified as soon as the next part of this tutorial is published. Thanks for watching.